What are we talking about?
House hacking, getting past just the normal FHA multifamily house hack.
Yeah.
I'm anticipating, I think we can easily say between the two of us and all of Texas, a couple hundred clients probably want to come through and house hack the 3.5% down multifamily. What are the odds of there actually being a couple hundred multifamily properties and FHA is going to get accepted? Very slim. So kind of want to just hear from you and just dig into different kind of strategies for house hacking. It goes a lot deeper than that. And since you've done it, I think you're a good person to at least tell us your strategies.
And also, I never really thought about that, but we do have hundreds of people who come through and talk about wanting to house hack a multifamily. And like right now, I think active in the North Texas MLS, there's maybe 25, and maybe 3 of them are viable. Like that would actually qualify for an FHA loan.
Exactly. And house hacking, it is going to be like location specific. You want to be within 15 to 20 minutes of your office or your workspace or whatever, and in a relatively good neighborhood too. So that even dwindles down even more. Maybe there's one option, and there's 6 other offers on it by other investors. So in order to get that location specific house hack, achievement, you need to get past that multifamily.
And there's 2 main ones that come to mind. We'll go into both of them. But the first one is, I don't know why, but so many times I get onto a conversation with somebody looking to house hack and they never even thought of a roommate model, getting into a large single family house and leasing out the extra bedrooms. It's definitely, it can be uncomfortable for people to accept that, but man, we've had great experiences with our roommate model type stuff. And, leasing out a bedroom, if you can get yourself into a 4 or 5 bedroom house and you lease out each one of those extra bedrooms for $800-900 a piece, and you can pick whoever you want to live with. For example, somebody who's single, if you're, let's say, a single guy and, getting into a new city, it's a great way. You have built-in community. You can use the low down payment financing options. You don't have to have nearly the amount of reserves as you do for a multifamily house hack. So it's really, really solid. And also you're going to have probably 20x the inventory to choose from.
Yeah, precisely.
Yeah. So that's one. What do you think about that?
I love it. What is the ideal house setup that they should be looking for on Zillow? Is there any particular property, square footage, bed bath count? I know you mentioned 4 to 5 bed. What about living rooms, etc.?
It's really similar to a rent by the room criteria, right? The same things that make a rent by the room successful are going to make your house hack successful. So at minimum, right, just in terms of a raw comfort standpoint, 400 square feet should be your bottom. And that would be if you've got a 4-bedroom house and it's got the right layout. Maybe you can find something that's like 1,700 square feet that'll work, but really you want to be a lot closer to that 500 square foot number in terms of per person who's going to be living in that house. So if you've got yourself a 4-bedroom house, ballpark rule of thumb, you want to be right around 1,000 square feet, just in terms of raw size. In the past, I've always said that 3 people sharing a shower should be your maximum in terms of bedrooms to bathroom and shower ratio. I think I'm going to change my tone on that. There's been I've definitely noticed higher turnover in roommates if there's more than 2 people sharing a shower. So I'm going to go ahead and definitely adjust that on my deal suggestions going forward. The rooms lease out and they lease out for the same rates, but the turnover has been higher. So it's taken, probably a 1.5 to 2 years of watching these rent by room houses, cycle through to see how the one less shower can impact your occupancy rates. So I'd say per 2 bedrooms, you want to have at least 1 shower. So if you've got a 5-bedroom house, you're going to need 3 full baths, right? Somebody's going to have their own. If you're getting up to 6 or 7 people living in the house, then you're going to want to have at least, say 4, maybe even up to 4 full bathrooms. So those can definitely be a little bit tougher to find, but I think that 4 and 5 bedroom, 3 full bath layout with 2,000 plus square feet is definitely the sweet spot where you want to be in.
What about financing options for this kind of rent by the room house hack if you were trying to get into it for as low money down as possible? I know we can do a 3 to 5% conventional. We can still use our I know you've used a TSAC.
T-Shack, yep.
A TSAC? Yeah. What's that?
T-Shack is just one element of down payment assistance programs that people will find. And every state, depending on where the clients are coming from, are going to have different down payment assistance programs. They just have to go ahead and ask their lender if they have any DPA. That's like the vernacular. And do you have any DPA options, down payment assistance options? And almost every state, and even down to the county or city level, is going to have DPA options to help people get into a primary residence, right? It's almost always relegated to an income cap, right? Like, for example, when Kendall bought the house that we're living in now, because I didn't buy this one, this is like one that Kendall bought, technically, I guess. So like income level, there's a cap in terms of the T-Shack grant that you can use. And how that one worked, just as an example of what like a client could look for, was they would fund up to 3% of the purchase price of the house, right? So that's a 3% grant. You couple that with a 3.5% down FHA loan. Now you're only out of pocket 0.5% for the down payment. So that reduces your cash outlay to almost nothing. And then if you can get a little bit of a concession, then you can limit your cash outlay to, under $5,000 and get into a $400,000 asset, which is insane, especially if not an extra unit in it that's paying for its own debt service. So it's like it's a no-brainer. You have somebody else paying for the mortgage that you basically got into for zero cash out of pocket.
You're making nearly zero payments on it out of your own pocket, and appreciating your 7 to 8%. Here in the DFW or Austin or San Antonio. I mean, that's sick.
Yeah, and I know.
Comfortable with the that kind of living for a short time, renting by the room.
And then the other asset type that people never really think about, which is really prolific in Texas, is anything that has an extra dwelling unit on it, right? It either has an ADU or it has a guest house. It's got a converted garage with a kitchenette in it. That happens all the time. We have so many multi-generational housing setups, especially in like San Antonio and parts of DFW, even ADU setups in Austin as well. They're a little expensive in Austin, but San Antonio and DFW for sure. You'll be able to find them all over the place that have a main house plus a guest house in the back. And those are probably, if not like, they're probably actually right on par with the amount of multifamilies that are out there. It's just that you have to be able to dig them up and look for them and find those ones that have the extra dwelling spaces. So if you're comfortable living in, you have a small kitchenette, it's just like an extended stay hotel, right? You've got a little refrigerator, and a lot of times there's just, a hot plate or just a small kitchen setup. Some of them do have like a full range and oven setup with a microwave and a coffee pot, and you've got a TV in there. It's like living in a studio apartment, and it can be totally fine. And then a lot of these ADUs, guest houses that you'll find on these are full houses, they're set up perfectly. So it's almost like having two houses on the same lot. So those setups, the guest house plus single family residence, are excellent options for a house hacker.
Yeah, ton of flexibility as well. Not only for like the young single, but it's a good option for families who have 2 to 3 kids who want to be in the main 3-2 main house and just have that extra $800 a month coming in from the ADU. Or you can short-term rental that sucker and then almost cover your mortgage if you're in a good spot.
Yeah, for sure. And that's like, we were kind of talking about this a little bit ago, or as in like a few days ago, the like demographic who is house hacking. A lot of times young families or like newlywed couples, they don't want to be in a, obviously a roommate situation wouldn't work with a family if they've got like a couple of little kids running around. For most people, it wouldn't work. But a single family house plus guest house setup is a great way to go ahead and get into a good like single family zoned neighborhood that has that guest set up in the back, and that way you're not relegated to some of like the multifamily inventory, and you can also go ahead and have a really clean separation for young families or any family really who wants to have that additional income coming in. We've actually seen clients go ahead and put up like if the layout of the property was conducive, put up a privacy fence so it looks like two like truly independent homes on the same lot, and those are excellent house hacking options,
especially when you can get an alleyway access to that back house. Then it's literally 2 completely separate houses. You have no idea that you actually own that other one, which is awesome.
Those setups are great. And also because it's a single family house, most multifamilies, even if you are house hacking, you're going to have to be closer to a 5% down payment. It depends on the lender. There's some nuance there, but most of them are going to be closer to 5% as like your minimum down payment. But to single family house plus ADU, you can still be down around that 3 to 3.5% down payment. So, and I know that extra 1 or 2%, it sounds silly, but for a lot of people who are getting into their first deal, that's huge. If it took them, a year to save up the $10,000 to get into for that first down payment, coming up with an extra 5, because you need an extra couple percentage points is really can cut into some reserves. So looking at it from a cash outlay perspective, that single family plus ADU is a great option to conserve cash.
Certainly. I did one this year where they qualify for a 3% down conventional. So it's awesome. They're living in the main house, but renting out the other one long term, which is sweet. I had another one who did 3%, and she's short-term renting the main house. So she's just living in the attic of the converted garage out back. And it's a cute little thing. And she's in Highland Park, just north of Dallas.
Oh, that's awesome. That's a good deal.
She's crushing it. Only 3% down. We got about $15,000 concession too. So she came out of pocket like 10 grand for a $700,000 property.
Yeah.
And she's probably bringing in about $4,500 for a month for the main house, which
is awesome.
Awesome. It's absolutely ideal. She even got a little bit more creative with it. She set up, I think, a closet in each house where she just keeps it locked. And she has both units set up on Airbnb. So you can rent out the whole house. She goes over to her parents' house if both units are occupied for a weekend. If they're not, then, or if it's just the ADU that's occupied, she'll go stay in the main house. If it's the main house that's occupied, she'll go live in the guest house. So she's just really
that's awesome.
Living below her means. I was like, let's go.
I love that. It's cool.
Yeah. So she really decreases her vacancy, having both of those things rented out. That's like 60 opportunities a month to bring in income.
Yeah, and that's really like the name of the game, is reducing vacancy and keeping that consistent income stream, especially if you're looking at a short or midterm rental model. So that's really, really cool. It sounds like she's doing it right. I've never heard of anybody bouncing around from one unit to the other. That's cool.
Yeah, she had a cool situation where her parents are still down the street just a little bit. So if both units happen to be occupied at the same night, then she just goes crashes at her place.
That's so good. Talk about just making things work and taking advantage of the opportunities that are around. And also, that's a great argument for any parents who listen to this, to have your kids live nearby. They can just say, hey, if you rent out the house, and then if you need to crash, come stay at our place. We'll have to make sure those parents don't hear this.
What about, do you have many clients doing live-in flips? Or if we cannot find a single family plus ADU or multifamily house, converting a detached garage into that studio apartment, is that common?
It's not super common, just because the cash outlay to do the conversion, most hackers that are coming through, they're early in their investing career and they don't have large cash reserves. And most of the time that cash outlay or the renovation has to be paid for in cash, right? It's not something that can be wrapped in financing. So it's not as common. What is more common is definitely the live-in flip. For example, I've got a client right now in San Antonio. He's purchasing with the VA loan, and we got an awesome house under contract. It's just dated, it was built in 1970, 1971 or 2, and it's all original finishes, so it's got old brown carpeting and wooden cabinets and popcorn ceilings, all that stuff, but it'll qualify for VA financing. So he's going to get in with concessions, for almost nothing out of pocket, and he'll be able to go ahead and just bounce from room to room. He knows how to do some light contracting work. So he's going to update the house himself, and he'll live in it for the next year, and then go ahead and either flip it or refinance then into a conventional mortgage and go ahead and, move into his next one. So those live-in flips can be awesome opportunities. You just have to make sure that you're not finding anything with major CapEx items, because it won't qualify for FHA or VA financing if it's got some major structural stuff going on.
There is one option, though. I just learned it. We have the FHA 2 or 3K loan for those live-in flips. There's also a conventional option for like 3 to 5% down as well. The Andrew Postella guaranteed rate has, as long as your after repair value, or as long as your purchase price plus your rehab is less than your after repair value, then you can qualify for it. Usually it takes about 2 months to close, and you need like your contractor part of the closing.
Okay.
To kind of sign off on something like, this is the plan. We'll stay below this budget, et cetera, et cetera. But there is that conventional option as well.
That's cool. And you might not know, but does the contractor need to be pre-approved by the lender? Does it have to be a lender qualified contractor?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So
I know
they need to be at closing, the contractor too.
Yeah. I know, like, for a lot of those like renovation style loans, it's got to be a contractor who's already approved by the lender, like on the lender's Rolodex. So you might have a contractor that you like, right, or that you've worked with in the past. It might be like your cousin or whatever. But if it's not one of those like approved contractors, a lot of times you have to pick from a Rolodex of say 10 different people. A lot of times that can, add a little bit of length to the timeline. But I mean, if you can swing it and you can jump through the hoops and keep it all on the rails, keep the deal on the rails through all of those hoops, man, those things are great options to go for.
What about another option that I thought of this morning is for that family that doesn't really want to live below their means or squeeze into a 2-bed, 1-bath multifamily house. One option to keep in mind is those single families that come with an extra lot. Very common to see listings, comes with next door lot, comes with additional lot with land. I've had a couple clients just buy the single family house, subdivide that lot, sell it for 30 grand, and that's your mortgage payment for the next 15 months.
Yeah, that's good.
It's right there. So it's not really that additional income, but one chunk of change from that extra lot that the house came with. That's pretty sweet.
That's super creative. Yeah. Because like, it's almost like instead of, renting out a couple of extra bedrooms and it would take you, 15 to 24 months in order to realize that 30,000, do it in one shot, and that's awesome. Super cool. I've never thought of that.
It's only a matter of keyword searches for comes with extra lot, additional lot, et cetera, et cetera.
Adjacent lot, whatever.
Yeah, stuff like that. So you can still kind of land that house in your target area, put an additional 25, 30 grand in your pocket a couple weeks after close.
Yeah.
And then just pocket that, use that to pay off your mortgage for the next 15 months and then rent that out.
Yeah. It'll really help jumpstart your own like personal finances, being able to put that 30,000. You just have to be like financially responsible, right? And not blow it on a new boat. That's like where self-control comes into play. But I totally agree. I've never thought of that. I think that's a great idea to use for it is a house hack. You are like, it is a hack,
Yes, it is. Yes. It's a lot hack.
Yeah, it's a lot hack. Exactly. That's cool. I like that. Something I heard about, and I've always thought like the pinnacle house hack was going to be, a quadplex that you can get a bunch of concessions on in a decent area, live in one unit, even if like, let's say the quadplex is all 2-bed, 1-baths, right? And you live in one unit and you rent out the extra bedroom in your unit. So you've got a couple $100 coming in from the main unit, and then all of the 3 other units are all rented out. I always thought that was like the pinnacle house hack. And I think that is probably the best solution in terms of just cash yield for most people. But an unforeseen negative is for a new landlord, like you're managing 3 or 4 separate tenants at that point, which can be a lot. And also reserves required, because now you've got not just now you don't have just one dishwasher to think about. Now there's 4 of them that could potentially go bad. You've got 4 AC units, 4 hot water heaters. So the cash reserves required to do a quadplex responsibly, I think it's just something to consider, as you go into a house hack deal, just thinking reasonably, you don't want to get overextended. I'm all for leverage. I'm all for being aggressive and growing and building out the portfolio, but it's just a consideration.
What would you consider or recommend for reserves per unit?
So reserves, I've always thought, we've actually talked about this, having 6 months of reserves in it, your lender's going to want to see it anyway. Your lender's going to want to see those reserve funds so that you can cover 6 months of your pity payment. And I largely agree with that. Not necessarily when you run your pro forma and you have vacancy built in there and you've got maintenance and capex items, all of that is going to be your total monthly cash outlay. I wouldn't necessarily multiply that by 6. I would have 6 months of your pity payment on reserve, and that would probably be enough. I would hope so. And then if you have a big expense that comes up, you have an AC unit that goes out and it takes $3,500, go ahead, pay to have the AC unit fixed, and then go and then replenish your reserve account as quickly as possible. What do you think is appropriate?
Yeah, I agree with that 6-month mark, like we talked about last time. What about expectation? Setting the expectation, how do you manage that conversation with your clients? So many of them, obviously, here on Bigger Pockets, covering your entire mortgage with no money out of pocket. What are you seeing in the San Antonio, Austin, DFW markets in terms of what are they actually going to be coming out of pocket for their monthly payments?
Yeah,
They're not doing everything.
Yeah. So like the easiest and like that I've seen, just like candidly, has been they're going to have about half of the mortgage that they're going to be paying as they're living in one of the units. You're occupying one of the units. And also like looking at cash yield, right? It's just one element, the return profile. You got to think about, all right, what would I be spending on rent? Let's say you're in an area and you're spending $2,000 a month on rent, right? And now you're moving into a house hack. And you're going to have to come out of pocket $1,000 a month. So a lot of times I'll see a client who says, well, it's $1,000 a month cash flow negative. Like, why would I ever buy that? It's like, well, you're going to be renting and paying $2,000 a month. And here you're building equity. You've got the potential for cash flow down the road after you go ahead and move out, so you're reducing your living expenses today by $1,000 a month. That's $1,000 free cash flow that you wouldn't have had before. So that is $1,000, even though if on paper you're looking at $1,000 net negative. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So that part is super hard. But just in terms of answering your question directly, most of our clients, when they get into a house hack, they're paying about half of the mortgage out of pocket every month.
That's half the mortgage, like you just said. You're not paying rent. It's recycling through an appreciating asset. It's not disappearing like it is in rent.
Right. Mm-hmm. Exactly. And that's another like beautiful part about real estate. It's not like you're spending the money on rent, right? Like the money that you pay toward principal, that's being captured in real value in the asset. Whereas rent, you are literally spending it. It's disappearing every single month. So that's just something good to keep in mind. I think like I've only had a few clients who are really stuck on trying to find a deal where they could occupy one unit and live totally free. And they said, no, we're not getting anything else. And they haven't gotten anything. It's been 2 years and the market has appreciated by 45% and there's still heels in the ground. Like, no, I'm not going to go ahead and pull the trigger unless it covers 100% of my living expenses. And that's fine. If that's the hill that you want to die on, totally cool. It's just in order to find that type of deal, you're going to be at really low purchase prices, usually in some pretty tough areas, and probably not an area where you're going to feel comfortable buying, So yeah, that's pretty much it.
Good points. Very important to set that expectation early, right off the bat in the first call.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. But there's definitely been, clients who after that first year, after their first round of rent increases are now at break even while occupying one unit, which is absolutely amazing. And then when they go ahead and move out, now their unit is pure cash flow. So that is you have to take a little bit of a longer term outlay or longer term like outlook on real estate. Like the returns that you see on paper for day one are usually going to be the worst through that you'll ever experience for the entire life cycle of that deal. The returns and the yield will usually only get better over time as long as you maintain the asset appropriately, because rents historically increase, appreciation historically has gone up and to the right. So that day one is going to be the worst. So that's just important to keep in mind.
Yeah, certainly. Before we wrap up here, is there any particular area around Austin, San Antonio, DFW, or anywhere along the 35 corridor that you're seeing good house hack opportunities? One for long-term rental or short-term rental, whatever the strategy might be.
Yeah, the short and midterm rentals in San Antonio in particular right now have really been like aggressively growing. And we've had a couple of really good opportunities on the northwest side around the medical district in San Antonio. Has been absolutely awesome. Specifically doing midterm travel nurse style rentals up in that corridor has been killer. On the north side of Austin, there's one little section of Austin called St. John's, which is like still like a seedier part of town. It's like one of the last holdovers that hasn't really quite gentrified like the rest of the city. And I know gentrification, depending on who you're talking to, can be an ugly or a great word. So just take it at face value. You know what I'm trying to say. So that section of the city, we actually did a house hack over there. It was a quadplex. And when it was purchased, this was probably 2.5 to 3 years ago now. When it was purchased, the rents were all around $1,350 to $1,500 a door. Now they're pulling in about $2,250 to $2,400 a door while they're occupying one unit. So that's almost, what's that? It's almost $7,000 in gross income from 3 units while living for free. Like that's after about 2 years, right? But when they're living in there, they're another one of those couples who's paying about half of the mortgage out of pocket every month. But now it's a quadplex in a growing area, that's almost worth $1 million. So like that stuff is really, really good. I know you're more familiar with the DFW metro. What areas around there have been producing well for house hackers?
Specifically, the single family plus and ADUs, really, really common in the Bishop Arts district, Bishop Arts, Oak Cliff. A lot of those neighborhoods are set up with alleys behind, like between lots. So a lot of them have a detached garage that were converted into, a 1-bed or a 2-bed or studio apartment with their own access with privacy fences. Really, really good setups in that little pocket. Super common.
Yeah. And you've got great proximity there to a lot of major employers, right? So like that west side of downtown is excellent.
Yeah, it's really good. The medical district just south of Fort Worth is also a really, really good spot. Good inventory of multifamilies in relation to the rest of the DFW. You can pick them up probably around 275 to 350 down there, really close to like Magnolia Street and the whole medical district where there's 7 major hospitals right there. So good for traveling nurses in the midterm rental strategy when you're house hacking. I have 3 clients doing that right now, and all of them have incredible feedback.
Yeah, that's really, really good. I think the south side of Fort Worth near the medical district, Bishop Arts, Oak Cliff has been awesome. The tech region on the north side of Austin around all the major tech campuses has been really good for the single family house and leasing out bedrooms, because you've got a lot of people coming in for a first job, and they're very comfortable living with roommates because they're coming from a college situation where they had roommates now into post-grad or into like a professional world where, it's already comfortable for them because they were already doing it. So it's very normal on that north side of Austin. And then the multifamilies or the house hack or the single family plus ADU setups around that west side of San Antonio near the medical district. I'm sensing a theme with the medical districts. Those are good spots, like major hospital systems, definitely good to target for these house hack style options.
A lot of good opportunity. One more before we sign off is north side of Fort Worth around the stockyards. A lot of multi-generational families. So it's already set up for those single family plus ADU or converted garage kind of things. A lot of opportunity right there at really good price points. Yeah, you can stick it. What's that?
I've seen that too. That they've been some really good price points. And it's interesting because there's still, especially with a lot of the older realtors who are around, they still think of like around the stockyards as being like dangerous. And they're like, no, I don't want to go. But it has totally changed in the last probably 10 years. Like it is nothing like it used to be. And there's like just some really, really, really good opportunity around that little section of the metro.
Yeah, a ton at really good price points from 200 to 300K. You can pick up converted, rehabbed, up to date, fully turnkey that'll qualify for FHA or low down conventional financing or VA loan. That's already set up for it.
Cool, man. All right. Well, that was, I think, about 35 minutes. Let's hop off and keep on with the day. I know I probably got like 6 house hackers that we have to talk to today anyway, try and find something. So
yeah.